progressive era. It was in the 1880s, the era of the robber barons. The choice we normally have to face, we don't know it, but it's between reform of a sort that widens the circle of prosperity, or demagoguery and reactionary forces that actually seek isolationism, xenophobia, jingoism, that blame, essentially take all of the fears and anxieties and frustrations that people fear because they fear that the game is rigged, and they focus them on what? On immigrants, on blacks, on minorities, on foreigners, on foreign trade, on all sorts of things that have nothing to do with the actual problem, but are convenient scapegoats. It's the politics of anger. And the fundamental choice we have is either reform or reactionary politics. And the politics of anger we already are feeling around us. Now, why would we ever opt for reform? Why would people with power and wealth in our society ever really opt for reform? Well, the answer is very simple, and it's happened before. They opt for reform because they know, and they get to a point where it's very clear as crystal to them, that it's better for them to have a smaller share of a dynamic and growing economy and a politics that is positive than a larger share of an economy that's dead in the water and a negative politics that threatens a lot of policies that fundamentally threaten future wealth creation. And so I'm optimistic. And on that upbeat note, I will end. Thank you very much. Christina is out there. Christina, thank you very much in advance. And we'll take your questions. And let me ask you, just because there are a number of people here, if you can limit them to yourself to a question. I know that there is a tendency to want to make comments. And I don't mind comments, but I'm the one to make comments tonight. So if you could limit yourself to questions, that would help me, and it would let more people have a chance. Yes?
Hi, thanks for being here. My question is, who do you think will and who do you think should replace Summers?
Okay, who do I think will and who do I think should replace Summers? I have no inside idea. I've been reading the same press reports you've been reading. I'll tell you, all you get from being in Washington for a number of years is you get a chance to see between the lines. That is, you read press reports and you sort of understand what's going on. What's probably going on right now is that there are people around the president who feel that it's very important to mend relationships with the business community. That there are a lot of people, big business leaders, who are saying to the president, you don't understand us, you have nobody in your administration who is from and of business, and you need to listen to us, and we are sacco voce. We are going to go Republican unless you do. And our campaign contributions are already heading in that direction. So the people around the president who are saying, you need to have somebody who is your economic advisor, who the business community really knows and admires and is part of the business community. But, say other people around Obama, that is disastrous. The base already is distrustful. Why do you want to do that? The first group is saying to Obama, let's float the idea in the press. Let's float it and see what reaction we get. That's what's happening right now. It's a float. Larry Summers not leaving until November, until after the election. So it's plenty of time to float ideas. So the idea float right now is a business person, a woman business person. There are a number of particular names that are being floated, and what they're doing in the White House is listening and polling. That's what happens in Washington. Who should be Summers' replacement? There are a number of very, very good people. Let me give you Jared Bernstein, who I know very well, who is right now the chief economist for Biden, is very, very good. A friend of mine who I have a great deal of confidence in is Lawrence Hosen, who's at the University of California, Berkeley. Gene Sperling, who was there and worked with me as my deputy originally on the Clinton economic transition, and then went on to do a lot in the Clinton administration. I think I have a lot of confidence in. They're good people. They're good people out there. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Am I picking? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
talking about trying to get the job.
I will repeat what you say.
That's where I think the Fed seems to be.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that worries me and makes me hopeful
Yeah. So let me repeat your question. Yeah, let me repeat your question. It was sort of a statement question. It was, do you agree with my concern? That's what you asked. And I do, but I agree with a slightly different version of it, and let me restate it. And that is, if we're not making anything, the working class, you refer to the term working class, middle class, the working class, middle class is not going to have jobs. Let me respond by saying that the long-term problem is not jobs. The long-term problem is wages. We will have jobs. The problem, wait a minute. There are plenty of jobs in the personal service sector of the economy. That's where everybody has gone. Wait, don't say no. Retail, restaurants, hotel, hospital, service transportation, construction, child care, elder care. That's where all the jobs are. The problem is they pay very little. Americans, this is what Herbert Hoover believed. This is what Andrew Mellon said. Okay, if you just wait long enough, if unemployment is high enough for long enough, people will settle for low-wage jobs, and they will get jobs. And you will wring the rot out of the system. I'm not saying that that's right. In fact, I think that's wrong. It's terrible. It's a horrible philosophy. But what I'm saying to you is that the long-term problem is not jobs. We will get jobs. The long-term problem is the wage problem. We've had stagnant wages, and we're going to have more stagnant wages, if not lower wages, for much of our population. And that's what we need to address. Now you say, what are we going to make? We're not making anything. I have a cell phone. I don't have a smartphone. I have a cell phone. I just have a cell phone. I'm the last remaining user of a cell phone. But I pulled this out for a simple reason. If you look at the value added in this cell phone, most of it is business services. It's not manufacturing. The actual manufacturing of the cell phone accounts for maybe 4% of the value of this phone. There's almost no manufacturing value added in terms of actually putting it together or getting the pieces together. The physical embodiment of this is the least valuable part of this. The most valuable part of this is design engineering, manufacturing engineering, systems integration, distribution. I mean, it's a whole list of services that are business services. What we have to understand is that the actual physical stuff is the least valuable part of what goes into more and more and more products. Just to drum this point home even further, I was asked not long ago to go out to a new manufacturing facility in the Midwest by a governor who had spent a lot of taxpayer money trying to lure that factory from Germany to the Midwest and not have another governor from another state get the factory instead. And the governor who got the factory was so excited, had a big ribbon-cutting ceremony because I was former Secretary of Labor, said, please come out and help me and celebrate this. And I did. I went out and I made the mistake of going into the factory when it was humming, full capacity. It was doing everything that the governor hoped it would do, but I counted 12 jobs. They were technicians sitting behind computer consoles, controlling numerically controlled machine tools and robotics. The old assembly line is dead. Somebody in the back.
Hi. You talked a lot about imbalances within the domestic economy, and obviously this was a global crisis. So I'm just wondering, what role you saw maybe global imbalances and inequalities in consumption playing in the crisis, and if you do see a role for them, what more progressive taxes and redistribution could do in this country?
But in a sense, what I've written here is a microcosm of what's going on in many countries. We are the outliers in terms of allowing extreme inequality, but you see inequality growing for much the same reason. Again, driven primarily by technology, coupled with our brand of capitalism spreading around the globe. Inequality is widening in China. Inequality is widening in egalitarian Japan. Inequality is widening in Europe. What country in Europe has suffered the biggest difficulties in coming back from the Great Recession, apart from Greece's problems? I'm talking not about the deficit, kind of playing games with your books. It's Great Britain. And inequality in Britain is the widest of any place in Europe. So what I'm suggesting to you is that this is not just the United States. This is global capitalism, and there is a necessity in every country to address the drift toward widening inequality. It's just that everybody does look at the United States. We are a kind of model. And not only are we a model, but we are a trendsetter for good trends and bad trends. Because we are so big and so powerful. Okay. Christina, I don't know whether you are selecting the microphone or... Okay.
So, one difference, I'm not sure if this is actually a difference between now and the Great Depression, is that unlike in the Great Depression, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have relied on what I think we call the third support mechanism for families, which is personal debt. And I think that isn't that a huge distinction from what occurred in the Great Depression. So I don't know, what do you foresee as a way around that? Because I think that is really one of the things that is really hampering the ability of everyday people to get out of this in a way, and maybe to make certain moves that people were able to make in the past, like physical moves to other parts.
Let me correct the record, because you may have misunderstood what I said. Mariner Eccles, looking at the years leading up to the Great Depression, said one of the problems was the middle class did not have enough earnings, and the only way they could keep on spending was going deeper and deeper and deeper into debt.
So it was similar to that.
And it was very, very similar. In fact, I have some examples and a little bit of data. I don't want to crowd the data with too much data. But yes, the trend was almost exactly the same. And that kind of reliance on debt is not sustainable. You just can't do it. The debt bubble just explodes after a while. And so you've got to reorganize the model that we learned in the 1930s and 40s, and really through much of the 50s. And if you include, and I think we have to include, voting rights and civil rights and inclusion, attempts to bring blacks and certainly others into our society, the moral of all of this is that the more attempt you make to widen the circle of prosperity so that more people share in the benefits of economic growth, the more you're going to have assured demand for what you are producing, and you are also going to make it easier to do a lot of things that the society also needs to do. Again, environmental protection. I mean, why is it that societies that are poor are very dirtier and more polluted? Well, one reason is that they don't have very much surplus to apply to a lot of things that a richer society really does care about. But if we continue to have stagnant wages and a lot of concern and fear about jobs, not only are we going to see the kind of demagoguery that says nobody should pay taxes, be in tax revolts, but also we can sacrifice the environment, we can sacrifice a lot of other value. Yes? Patiently, wait.